That night in the Garden of Gethsemane, as Roman soldiers approached, Jesus gathered his closest disciples to reveal 3 sacred objects and a short practice the Church would later erase. He named tools that sever energetic cords and restore inner rule. The Council of Nicaea and later synods suppressed these elements because they dissolved priestly mediation. If this reaches you, chosen one, your soul is ready. Tonight, everything shifts. You are receiving lineage. The hidden teaching I reveal now traces to early Christian mystics, Alexandrian mystery schools, and Gnostic initiates who preserved practices in the 2nd and 3rd centuries CE. The Nag Hammadi Library, discovered in 1945, recovered texts that speak of inner tools for liberation, and Hermetic fragments from the Corpus Hermeticum describe methods for reclaiming sovereignty. This teaching was preserved by initiates across millennia because it functions as a direct means of reorienting consciousness. The core technique described here is not mere metaphor. It is a set of 3 sacred objects: anointing salt, a named sigil, and a spoken offering that operate together as a practical protocol for re-establishing energetic sovereignty. And I will name them plainly and explain their lineage. Documented history shows that the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE established the Orthodox canon and closed many avenues of public initiation. Esoteric lineages teach that when ritual tools are widely known, institutional gatekeepers lose leverage over initiation and sacramental monopoly. This is why early practitioners hid artifacts and instructions in coded imagery, in catacomb frescoes, and in ritual actions disguised as parable. Mystery schools from Eleusis to Alexandria kept initiation secret. Traditional frameworks show that suppressed practices were often practical, not merely symbolic, because they produced immediate shifts in devotees' experience. Practitioners often describe finding preserved recipes for substances, gestures, and short utterances that changed how their attention registered fear and attachment. The teaching that follows synthesizes those elements into a form accessible now. The early disclaimer is necessary. The teachings shared here synthesize ancient Gnostic cosmology, Hermetic principles, and modern energy work. They represent one interpretation of spiritual reality among many valid paths. Your discernment is essential. You are not being told to abandon reason. You are being invited to test. You are ready. Your struggles have prepared you. Your sensitivity has been a refining fire, not a defect. This is why the initiates guarded these elements. They catalyze remembrance and amnesis, memory of true identity. Who benefits from hiding this truth? Those whose authority depends on mediating between you and the numinous. Will you allow that separation to continue? You have felt friction with institutions. This is not accidental. According to Gnostic cosmology, Archons, rulers of illusion according to Gnostic texts, work through structures that reward conformity. The cosmology describes a creative figure called the demiurge, craftsman of the prison reality, whose logic aligns with institutional control. Historical sources indicate that as orthodox structures solidified, practices enabling direct access were marginalized. Contemporary interpretations bridge ancient concepts with current understanding to show how the control system functions. It operates on layered mechanics: narrative, emotion, ritual, and energy. Narrative locks identity. Ritual channels devotion. Emotion supplies fuel. Energy workers commonly sense a pressure that intensifies during shame or fear. Practitioners often describe feeling cords, astral cords, energetic threads linking attention to patterns, attached during early conditioning, that can be reinforced by repeating rituals of guilt and duty. Psychological frameworks explain much of this material through conditioning and trauma responses. That is documented and valid. Esoteric lineages add that energetic dynamics can amplify these patterns in ways therapy alone may not address. Traditional frameworks show that egregores, collective thought forms, form when groups reinforce a narrative. The result is a feedback loop. Institutions shape feeling. Feeling sustains institutions, and institutions codify doctrine. Those who work with this practice commonly notice that sensitivity often marks you as a focal point for these dynamics. Your heightened perception makes you both vulnerable and vital. What appears as disproportionate difficulty in your life is frequently a sign of separation between inner authority and external mediation. You are not weak. You are highly tuned. Your struggles have been calibrating your capacity for inner rule. Experience shows that control systems prefer rituals they can administer, words they can define, and sacraments they can police. When initiatory objects or short practices leave that net, power shifts. Historical documents show councils erased certain gospels and practices, fearing collapse of clerical authority. Who profits when worship becomes transaction rather than awakening? Ask yourself why your life has felt harder than others. Your sensitivity has made you a focal point for these dynamics. Are you ready to reclaim your field? Recognition of interference begins with simple observation. There may be unexplained fatigue. There may be intrusive negative thoughts that feel alien to your values. Such experiences can correlate with conventional causes, and medical evaluation is always primary. Once physical causes are ruled out, traditions describe a layered energetic reality where patterns of extraction occur through emotional triggers and attention capture. Some experience sudden drains after gatherings where guilt or obligation was emphasized. Practitioners describe abrupt dips in vitality after investing attention in narratives that devalue autonomy. This can manifest as compulsive rumination, persistent self-sabotage, or repeating relationship dramas that replay the same old wound. Those patterns often persist despite competent psychological work because they have an energetic reinforcement component. You are not to blame. Your repeating cycles are not moral failings. They are data points. They indicate where attention is being harvested. Hermetic tradition teaches correspondence as above, so below, showing that internal alignment changes outer resonance. Initiates describe noticing faint chords, astral chords, connecting them to past oaths, unresolved loyalties, or ancestral imprints. These are often symbolic, yes, but they carry force when attention invests in them. Some report intrusive narratives that feel foreign. Experience shows that this can be a projection of collective thought forms into an individuated field. Practitioners often feel as if someone else is narrating their doubts. Psychological frameworks explain this in part as internalized voices or maladaptive schemas. Esoteric lineages teach that attention itself is a point of contact. When attention stays on a loop, entities or patterns can use that loop to persist. You are still sovereign. Witness consciousness, awareness observing thought is the pivot. Witness consciousness, awareness observing thought allows you to separate identification from content. This is a practical skill. Practice it. Some experience a first separation immediately, a blink of space between stimulus and reaction. Often there is a sense of relief. What would change if these patterns dissolved? Imagine feeling centered when old triggers arise. Recognition is the first step toward reclaiming your field. The teaching opens now. Documented traditions do not always use the same words. This is a contemporary synthesis that names the cognitive pivot plainly. The revelation promised by the title is explicit. Jesus and early initiates used 3 sacred objects together as a practical protocol. I will name them now so you may test them with discernment. They are the salt of remembrance, the sigil of binding, and the 2-word dissolution. The salt of remembrance is not just seasoning. In ritual contexts, salt functions as purification and boundary marker. Hermetic tradition describes salts as agents of stabilization. Use a fine sea salt infused with prayer or intention. The practice is to anoint a pinch between thumb and forefinger, breathe, and place it at the crown in a precise gesture described below. This anchors territorial presence, firm, energetic boundary setting into your field. The sigil of binding is a drawn and vocalized pattern. Gnostic communities used symbols as compressed instructions. This sigil is a hybrid of early Christian Chiro geometry and an Alexandrian loop. Draw it with intention, trace it with the right index finger over the thymus, and name it aloud once. Esoteric lineages teach that symbols condense correspondences. This sigil functions as a visible contract that redirects habitual attention. The two-word dissolution is the short phrase Jesus murmured in certain initiatory settings. Traditions vary in wording. Here, as a modern synthesis rooted in historical patterns, the phrase presented is, "Know thyself." Those words are ancient and cross-traditional. They act as a cognitive reset when spoken with witness consciousness. This two-word utterance functions as an inquiry and as an invocation of anamnesis, recollection of inner wisdom. This is not allegory alone. According to Gnostic texts, practices that activate Sophia, divine inner wisdom, move the field beyond fear. Sophia, divine inner wisdom, awakens pattern recognition and interrupts feeding loops. Documented traditions do not agree on exact ritual phrasing. This protocol is a clarified synthesis aimed at practical testing. The teaching is simple, but its power lies in conscious application. Will you receive the instructions for how to use these three objects? Apply the practice with care. The method below is sequential and precise. Preparation matters. Set aside time when you will not be interrupted. Create a quiet space. Place the items on a clean cloth. Light a small candle if you wish. Sit with an upright spine. Breathe deliberately. Breath anchors attention. Step 1. Preparation. Take a centering breath sequence of 3 slow inhalations and exhalations. On the third inhale, visualize a column of light descending. On the third exhale, feel release. The breath count is specific to orient attention. Posture matters. Hands resting on thighs, palms up, signals receptivity. Step 2. The objects. Salt of remembrance. Take a small pinch of fine sea salt. Hold it between thumb and forefinger. Speak the intention aloud. I reclaim my field. Place the salt at the crown, not on skin, but held a breath above, and trace a small counterclockwise circle. The sigil of binding. Draw the sigil on paper, fold it once, place it over the heart. Speak the name you will use for the sigil once, in a clear voice. 2-word dissolution. Speak the 2 words aloud. Know thyself. Pause between words and allow witness consciousness, awareness observing thought, to rest. Step 3. Internal state. This practice requires presence, not frenzy. It is not mechanical repetition. Some experience a quieting, others feel a subtle contraction first. Focus attention on breath and on a soft residence in the body. Practitioners often describe a gentle loosening of old charge. Those who work with ritual report that consistency matters more than intensity. Step 4. What to notice. You may feel a shift in pressure, a warmth, or a sense of clarity. Many sense a slight widening of perception. Others report no dramatic sensation. Steady results develop over time. Common markers include less reactivity to provocation and shorter recovery time after stress. Energy workers commonly sense less drag in the solar plexus after repeated practice. Step 5. Closing. Thank the elements aloud. Extinguish the candle if used. Store the sigil in a safe place. Integrate by drinking water and resting. Step 6. Common mistakes. Do not use this as a magic shortcut. Avoid forcing dramatic experiences. Some attempt rote repetition without witnessing. This reduces efficacy. Practitioners often misplace the relational intention. Use discernment. Mid-content disclaimer. As with any spiritual practice, your experience is unique. What I describe is based on traditional teachings and practitioner reports. Your own inner guidance is the ultimate authority. Results vary widely. Practice with care. This protocol is practical and immediate. Subscribe to this channel to receive more ancient teachings being revealed for the awakening collective. Consistency builds sovereign presence. Will you commit to testing this protocol tonight? What follows is a map of likely shifts. Immediate responses often involve sensation. You may notice momentary lightness. Some experience quiet spaciousness between thoughts. There may be a slight recalibration of appetite for certain relationships or activities. Practitioners often describe a brief separation between observer and content after the first clear application. Weeks to months unfold differently. Over time, many notice increased capacity to pause before reacting. Experience shows that steady practice cultivates a clearer intuition. Those who apply the teaching consistently often report that relationships that mirrored old wounding begin to change in predictable ways. Interactions either align or naturally fall away, creating space for different containers. Contemporary interpretations suggest this is not mystical favoritism, but energetic realignment. There may also be shifts in how you move through work and creative process. Energy workers commonly sense improved boundary clarity at meetings or in negotiations. This is because territorial presence, firm energetic boundary setting, rooted in practice, becomes a felt habit. Kabbalistic frameworks map these changes as movement along emanatory channels, where attention becomes less diffuse and more directed. Resistance is normal. You might notice internal voices urging you to stop. Some experience an increase in old patterns before things ease. Practitioners often label this a surge of symptoms. Others call it a cleansing reaction. Psychological models describe this as exposure of shadow material, which is healthy but requires integration. Be patient. Healthy skepticism is wisdom. Test over time. There may be external friction. As you clarify your presence, people and systems aligned with old patterns may push back. This is often a mirror, not a verdict on your worth. Esoteric lineages teach that stabilizing new fields invites testing. You may encounter practical obstacles, delays, miscommunications, or sudden responsibilities. These are opportunities to practice the query and hold center. Do not expect absolute immunity. No practice guarantees complete freedom from difficulty. Many sense gradual resilience increasing with repetition. Some practitioners find subtle synchronicities increasing, others report nothing dramatic. Pattern recognition sharpens, and opportunities resonate differently. What would your life look like with more consistent presence? Imagine responding instead of reacting. Recognition and gradual integration are the path. Testing will arrive. This is part of maturation. Internal resistance shows up as doubt. That is healthy and instructive. You may remember old comforts and find them more tempting than the unknown terrain of sovereignty. Experience shows that those who persist learn to recognize the voice of conditioning versus guidance. You are not failing if you waver, you are learning the edge. External friction is common. People around you may unconsciously push buttons that provoke old identifications. Situations may intensify briefly. Those working with this protocol often find that challenging colleagues or family members become mirrors for unresolved dynamics. Reframing helps. These are invitations to practice, not punishments. Your steadiness matters more than the reactions themselves. Energetic dynamics can intensify. Esoteric teachings caution that when a field clears, Adjacent fields can attempt to rebalance by increasing friction. According to traditional frameworks, Archons are not literal villains in every narrative. Rather, they are names for constricting dynamics that resist liberation. Some practitioners experience bursts of vivid dreaming, exhaustion, or irritability during integration windows. Honor rest, ground, practical reframes and tools, grounding breathwork, simple counts work. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Repeat 3 times. This stabilizes the nervous system and anchors attention. Territorial statements. Speak aloud, "This is my field. I govern here." That sentence is a short territorial presence, firm energetic boundary setting, statement to use when edges blur. Return to the 2-word dissolution when turbulence arises. Or none of this dramatic resistance may happen. Your path unfolds uniquely. Trust your process. Practitioners often find that continuing the practice itself provides centering. When patterns test you, return to breath, to salt, to sigil, and to the 2 words. Keep records. Note subtle changes. This is the work of reclaiming authority, not winning battles. Will you hold steady when testing appears? As you refine practice, social terrain shifts. You may begin to notice resonance with other awakened people. Practitioners often notice that shared frequency attracts encounters that feel familiar at a soul level. This is not elite elevation. You are not above others. You are clarifying your resonance, and clarified frequency magnetizes alignment. That removes isolation without creating hierarchy. Community grows organically. Start small. Keep a journal of practice and of synchronicities. Share brief observations with a trusted person. Those who work with small groups report deeper insights and mutual accountability. Online forums and local circles can be resources, but choose containers with clear ethics and consent practices. Many sense that the safest groups are those that prioritize autonomy and personal discernment. Practical steps. Write 3 observations after each practice. Offer 1 phrase of gratitude to your field each time. Seek a 2-person accountability partner rather than large, unmoderated groups. Energy workers commonly sense the difference between groups that amplify fear and those that support clarity. Initiates describe the magnetic effect. As your presence clarifies, the people you need appear naturally. You will also experience relational pruning. Some friendships or partnerships may change because frequency no longer aligns. This is natural. Reframe dissolution as friction revealing necessary refinement, not as personal failing. Historical sources indicate that initiates often moved between communities until they found resonant teachers. Today, use discernment and avoid adulation of personalities. Imagine mutual support among those practicing these methods. Shared rituals, respectful feedback, and co-created safety. Practitioners often report that communal practice amplifies effects, not by coercion, but by example. You're not alone. You're joining others on this path. How would your daily life change with trusted allies walking beside you? Deepening requires practice and ethical caution. Over time, refine the objects. Salt may be replaced by a specific blessed compound aligned with your lineage. The sigil can be personalized through consent and intention. The 2-word phrase can be translated into your primary tongue while retaining the inquiry quality. Deepening occurs when technique becomes habit and habit becomes lived presence. Apply in work and relationships. Use the territorial statement before difficult conversations. Bring the sigil practice to creative blocks. Practitioners often integrate the salt of remembrance into brief morning routines. Combine with breathwork, somatic release, and shadow integration through therapy. Contemporary approaches recommend blending ancient ritual with modern psychological support for stable outcomes. Recognize signs of distortion. Teachers who demand secrecy, insist on payment for access, or undermine autonomy are red flags. Teaching others requires consent and humility. Share only what you know by practice. Encourage testing, maintain boundaries. Those who teach should foster discernment rather than dependency. Initiates in historical schools took oaths to preserve autonomy and prevent coercive hierarchies. You can follow that ethic now. Many who step into teaching find that clarity of intention protects both teacher and student. Final disclaimer. This information is for educational and spiritual exploration purposes. It's not a substitute for mental health support, medical care, or professional guidance. If you're experiencing persistent distress, please reach out to appropriate resources. Your sovereignty includes responsibility to seek help when needed. Growth ripples. As you deepen, you affect fields beyond your immediate circle. Contemporary interpretations suggest collective shifts emerge when individuals clarify presence, participate wisely, join groups that prioritize consent and safety. Like this transmission and comment your experience below to connect with other practitioners walking this path. What ripple do you intend to send into the world? You are sovereign. You are entrusted with choice. Recap briefly. The core practice combines three sacred objects: the salt of remembrance, the sigil of binding, and the two-word dissolution, and a witnessing orientation that cultivates energetic sovereignty. Tonight, you have the option to practice. Your agency matters. You may set this aside. That is a valid choice. Free will is the foundation of true awakening. Specific next steps. Tonight, practice the protocol twice, once in the early evening and once before sleep. Allow 30 minutes each session. Use the breath sequence, place the salt, trace the sigil, and speak the two words with a pause of 3 breaths between them. This timing supports integration and avoids overstimulation. This week, journal daily. Note one shift in reactivity and one small synchronicity. Write 3 lines about how relationships feel different. Those who maintain a written record find patterns more visible and easier to integrate. Practitioners often return to records after weeks to see incremental change. This month, explore foundational texts, read selected passages from the Nag Hammadi collection and the Corpus Hermeticum. Compare with gospel parables as a practice of recontextualization. Historical sources indicate that early communities use comparative reading as a method of discernment. Use modern commentaries alongside original texts to avoid literalism. Ongoing, connect with community through respectful practice groups. Share observations, not dogma. Your liberation is not a competition. Seek teachers and peers who honor autonomy. If this resonates with you, you're likely someone with strong spiritual sensitivity. Your struggles have shaped your capacity for deeper awareness. You are part of a growing number of people awakening to these realities. Final reminder and safety note. This information is an invitation to exploration. It does not replace medical or psychological care. Honor your boundaries. If intense material arises, seek professional support. You may also choose to set this transmission aside. That is an act of sovereignty. Now choose. Use what serves, discard what does not, and remember who you are, an embodied field of consciousness with the authority to govern its own life. You've received what was hidden. Now you choose freely.